Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Y'all are here for day 3. Sorry we didn't get a bunch of music today, but just getting stuff ready. But we're here together for day 3 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Today we are going to be working on the Texas Driver Handbook Review Part 1. All right, we're going to go as far as we can today, and then we will be finishing this up tomorrow, and this is going to be going over all the information, or a majority of the information, that you may encounter. There's a couple things that we'll see on Friday that weren't in this presentation, but we'll be sure to get you those answers for that. And it is also going to be part of the homework. So as long as you did the reading assignment that came with yesterday's homework, and thank you for getting those names in the chat, you should have seen a couple things in there. But all right, folks. So let's rock and roll. Let's jump right into it. And Texas Driver Handbook Review, the Hernandez Driveway. All right, folks. So here we go. All right, what is the minimum age at which you can get a Class C driver's license without either A, being a hardship case, or B, being too old, right? So you got to be 25. Okay. Until you are 25 years old, you are required to take driver's education. Adults from 18 to 24 have to come in and take a 6-hour driver's education course to get their driver's license. All right, for those of you that are 17, if you turn 18 before the classroom stuff is done, you will qualify for having taken this class as an adult. And that'll offer you a discount on your car insurance. That's kind of cool, right? But anyone that's 18 to 24 that just chooses to go with the 6-hour course, well, they don't get a discount because they're not getting the full educational experience. All right, so folks, even if you know how to drive and you're under 18, it's still better to take this course than it is the little short one, because you learn the right way to do everything. All right, but even if you are 24, you still got to take driver's ed, folks. So unless you want to wait till you're over 25, please finish up the coursework, right? All right, now what is the maximum fine for the first conviction of driving without a license? The maximum is $200 the first time. Goes up by $50 every time up to $500. Right? But that's the subsequent ones, right? But the very first time, it's up to $200. And sad to say, but driving by yourself with your driver's permit, like going to school in the morning because you got your permit, is still driving without a license, and you can get a ticket. Okay? A permit only lets you drive with a licensed adult in the front seat, paying attention, helping you drive. All right, so unless one of your parents works at your school, you will probably not be able to drive to school during these first 6 months while you have the permit. After that, though, if you're already old enough to get the license, you will be able to, and start driving then. So it works out, folks. All right, now what type of restrictions may be placed on your license? Well, you can have a Class A restriction with corrective lenses. You will be required, if you have a Class A restriction on your license when you come in to drive with us, if you're not wearing glasses, we are going to be checking to make sure you got those contacts in, all right, because it's a must. All right. B, LOFS 21 or over. That is the restriction that makes it a permit. All right. And then there's also the restriction F that's not listed here, but that's the one for people with a permit who are under 18, and you have to have the permit on you. You have to have it physically on you in order to drive. All right. That means lessons with us, you need to bring the permit as well. All right. Now, other restrictions may be placed on your license, but many of them are for medical reasons, such as for hearing impaired individuals or people with some varieties of epilepsy. Both of those require the same restriction. They need to have a co-pilot, an LOFS 21 or over, but it's for medical purposes. All right. Now, what action should you take if you fail to receive the renewal notice card reminding you that your license is about to expire? If you don't get the notice, that does not matter, because it's your driver's license. Okay? Your ID, your license, your ability to legally drive. Therefore, it's your responsibility to renew. Now, the first time you'll need to renew is when you turn 18. Before you turn 18, as a matter of fact, because your 18th birthday, whatever you have is going to expire. Okay? Back in the day, they didn't give you any extra days to do it. You had to go in on your birthday. All right? And for me, January 1st, that made it kind of tough because sometimes they weren't even open that day. So a time or two, I had to re-go through the rigmarole. All right, but y'all are lucky because y'all can renew 60 days in advance now, and because of the online option, y'all can renew online from home without even having to, get out of your pajamas 60 days before your birthday. And if you've got the provisional license, the renewed one, the one that you print out that day and the one you'll receive in the mail a couple weeks later, is a full driver's license, no restrictions. All right, so if you do not receive your renewal notice, you renew it anyway. All right, it expires on your birthday. All you have to do is remember the year. Okay? Question 5. Describe the equipment required on passenger cars by state law. Well, you don't actually have to memorize all of this, folks. But the thing is that there are quite a bit of things that are required on your vehicle by state law. All right? And the important part is that you know... When you get your car inspected every year for registration, these are the items that are checked and must be in working order for you to register your vehicle in the state of Texas. That's why you can fail an inspection. You didn't. Okay, that's cool. Not a word. All right, just stay on top of them. Don't let them fall behind. All right. If your vehicle fails inspection, it's because it's missing, or because one of the things that's required is not properly functioning, right? When you go get your vehicle inspected, no one's going to tell you this when you're an adult, because they'll think you should already understand this, even though no one kind of tells anybody this. But when you go get your vehicle inspected at a mechanic's shop, sometimes their hustle is fix it so that it does pass the inspection and then hit you with the charges for those repairs. All right, so what do you want to do if you do arrive at a mechanic shop and to get yourself an inspection? You let them know that they are not to repair anything without obtaining your consent first. Why? Because I once had them charge me $20 to replace one light bulb this big. The light bulb cost me $1. I replaced it in about 30 seconds, and when I asked them to produce the bulb that had gone bad, they couldn't. I was like, it's okay. Where did your person throw the bulb that they just replaced away so that I at least know that they did actually replace the bulb? We'll go find it. And they couldn't find another one in the whole shop, meaning more than likely they didn't do the job. They were just billing me for it. So I was like, you know what? Keep your bulb. I'll run down to the store and go get it. Well, you can't drive without signals. And I was like, I can signal by arm, just like everyone else. Thanks for the heads up, though. And I went and replaced it myself, went back, finished my inspection. Never went back to that place again because they were super shady. All right? But when you do get your vehicle inspected, all of those things need to be good or it will fail and you won't get your sticker. All right? Question 6. Describe the types of equipment which Texas state law specifically forbids on passenger cars driven within the state. Okay, you cannot have a red light showing from the front or a bell, siren, or exhaust whistle unless you are an emergency vehicle. This is so that you don't get confused with, you guessed it, emergency vehicles. All right, we can't have anything that makes it seem like, we're unofficial when we're not. Okay, that's kind of like fake credentials for yourself. Impersonating a police officer. Well, if your vehicle looks like a cop car, you could be charged with the same. So please do not install any of this stuff on there. There's an Uber driver in McAllen that is pushing it because he is using some shade of red that is close enough, but apparently far enough away that he hasn't gotten arrested for it because he's still doing it. But don't push it, folks. You may not have a muffler cutout. If you are not familiar with what a muffler cutout is, it's realistically one of two things. One, it's either a hole has been cut into the muffler so that air expels faster and you gain more horsepower. It also makes your car about 10 times louder, maybe twice as loud, and increases the amount of pollution that you're putting out by as much as 300%, because your muffler has a very important job. Your muffler, on top of reducing noise, also reduces carbon emissions by catching it on special plates that are built in the inside, and the smoke kind of bounces off of all of them and the carbon just gets caught up on that stuff instead of going out into the air, and then when it comes out the exhaust, it's a little bit cleaner because of that. All right, now you can also have a muffler cut out by just replacing your muffler with a smaller one. If your muffler is not the appropriate size for your vehicle, it does the exact same thing. It increases the amount of horsepower that you get because it's not designed to handle the amount of, or the volume of contaminants coming out the back. So it's not properly filtering stuff out, and the air gets through it faster because it's smaller. All right, now, like I said, this boosts horsepower, but it's bad for the environment, and how can you stand all that noise? All right, because driving around in a wow, that's a lot of noise for 8 miles an hour. Yeah, that kind of noisy. All right, but besides, when everyone stops and stares at your car as you drive by, guess who that includes? That includes the police. Now, if you want a car that gets the attention of every police officer in the area, if you want a car so loud that they can track you whether or not they can see you just based on your engine volume, then, you know, maybe mess around with this. If you want to stay compliant in the law, be able to renew your vehicle, keep your license, then no muffler cutout. No removing the catalytic converter either, because both of those do the same thing. They increase pollution and a little bit more power. Right? Now describe the types of equipment. What else? Well, we can't have anything extending more than 3 inches beyond the left side or 6 inches beyond the right. So we're like Nemo, right? We got big flipper over here, a little half flipper on this side. Why? Because we got something coming from that opposite direction, right? What's on the left side of your car coming from the opposite direction? Why would they only give you 3 inches on the left, right? It's because that's the side with traffic. The other side is the side with a curb. So if you've ever seen one of those big spoilers on the back of someone's car and it looks crooked, like it's shifted over further to the right than the left, it is. They wanted the biggest one they could get, and so they have that uneven spoiler now. All right? But yeah, they don't want you hitting oncoming traffic with bits on your vehicle, so you only get that 3-inch extension. Okay, on the right side of the shoulder, or on the right side is the shoulder of the road, so they allow you the 6. Okay? You may not have a radar interference device designed, manufactured, used, or intended to be used to interfere with, scramble, disrupt, or cause malfunction in a radar laser device used to measure a vehicle's speed. Okay. Commonly known as a fuzz buster or a radar buster. All right? You can have something that alerts you to when radar devices are in use. You cannot have something that completely prevents the police from being able to measure your speed. This guy bought 10 gallons of paint, military surplus that had been used for the B-1 bomber. The B-1 bomber is the stealth plane. It was the very first stealth bomber. And the paint itself defeated radar. He bought a $250,000 paint job for his car and was forced to paint it again because his paint job was preventing radar devices from affecting him. So, yeah, if they're willing to go to that degree, the little maquinita is really going to upset them. All right? Now, you can have that one that alerts you, but the problem with that or the problem with the device that blocks the radar is police know how they work, and they know how to work around them. All right? When it was in the beginning, they would just sit there with a gun on, and the number would go every time a car drove by. Now, they visually wait until they see it, and then they're like, this person's going too fast because of experience. And then they take out the gun and they go, bip, no reading, bip, no reading, bip, no reading, get them. Because once they've gotten 3 failure to read your speed, they know for a fact that you have a radar jamming device. Now, let's say they go bip and you've got the little device in your car that lets you know that you're being radared, and so immediately you slow down. All right, well, they already got you speeding, so now they're going to pull you over and give you a warning. But while the officer's up there being nice and, excuse me, do you know why I pulled you over today? And you're like, well, officer, perhaps was I going a little too fast? Because we want to put it in the form of a question. We don't want to accept full responsibility, right? And then the other officer sitting in the car is going to go bip and hit that little thing. And then your little device that warned you about the radar is going to go dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And now the officer standing at your window has gone from, I'm going to give this person a warning because they caught themselves and slowed down, to this person only slowed down because we tagged him with radar, give him a ticket. And that's what happens, folks. So don't speed, don't have a device that blocks radar, and don't have a device that warns you when radar is in use. Just choose not to speed. That way, when the opportunity to get a warning because you caught yourself comes up, it's not because a little machine told you and then the police decided, well, you're getting the ticket anyway because you were speeding. Okay? Don't do it, folks. Okay? Now, how should you react when a traffic officer tells you to do something which is ordinarily considered against the law? Now, the operative word is traffic. Okay? Traffic officer is a police officer in regards to the way the road is currently working. Okay, so how should you respond when a police officer on the roadway tells you to do something which is considered against the law as far as the roadway is concerned? That's what this question is asking. All right, they can entrap you with other stuff, but here's the situation. You're approaching a green traffic light. There's a police officer in the intersection holding up their palm telling you to stop. Now the light is green, but the officer is telling you to stop. What do? You stop. You must obey law enforcement officers even if they tell you to do something which is ordinarily considered against the law because they are the final say-so. The second a human being puts their life on the line and stands in the roadway so that you can get to where you're going faster, we respect them. We follow their instructions and we make damn sure we don't hit them. All right? We just be careful because they're out there. Their life is in jeopardy because if someone makes a big enough mistake, boom, they get hit and they're gone. Remember, meatbags do not handle impact by vehicle well. All right? So please, follow their instructions. Regardless if they're out there conducting traffic, you follow their instructions. Okay. Now, how should you react when an officer pulls you over? Okay, so before I go into this fully, I have 20 plus years experience with law enforcement. I was in the Explorers program when I was young, an Explorers program. If you're interested in becoming a police officer, ask your local department if they have an Explorers program. It's, you know, that we did ride-alongs, we learned some self-defense, I learned Aikido, we did some trips and camping, and we learned penal code and procedure, and, you know, we got to check out the evidence locker, and stuff like that. It was kind of cool. And then you do ride-alongs, right? And then some of those explorers that want to become police officers, they get sponsored by the department, and the department pays for their police academy training. So it's kind of a cool thing to do. After I became an adult, I no longer wanted to be a law enforcement officer, or I no longer wanted to like continue with the explorers in that perspective. So I became one of the people that helped run it. Because though I didn't want to be in law enforcement, my mother was in law enforcement for a very long time, and at that time she was still in law enforcement with that department. So I volunteered there, and you know, I helped out some youths that were interested in becoming law enforcement. So I have a very unique perspective because I've dealt with them interpersonally, personally, and professionally, and most people haven't. You know, some people know a cop or two. I know a cop or 200. You know, it's that kind of situation. And because of that experience, I can tell you a little bit that's going to help. Number one, when you get pulled over, okay, when you go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac and fries and the person hands you Big Mac and fries, do you get mad at them? Do you yell at them? Do you blame them for you getting Big Mac and fries? No. This is what you asked for. This is what you got, right? Okay, so when we're out on the roadway and we're speeding, well, we're asking for a Big Mac and fries. And law enforcement, it's their job to give us that Big Mac and fries. You see where I'm going here? All right, so when you get pulled over, it is 100% your fault. Okay? So do not get upset at those people. And if you feel that you are innocent of what they're accusing you of, don't argue with them. Just sign your ticket and argue with the judge. But what we need to do, what we need to remember to do, because it's not a personal thing, because they're not trying to mess with our day, they're just doing their job, just like the person that sells us the Big Mac and fries at McDonald's, although I hate McDonald's. We speak to police officers like we would a potential boss. So what does that mean? That means we use that fake you use at a job interview. Now, for those of you that have yet to have a job interview or have yet to take something like employability skills, let me show you what I mean. All right, so this is me talking to y'all regularly, right? This is me talking to a potential employer. Why, good afternoon, yes. Well, for me, it's very important that I communicate effectively with my people and that, we work together cohesively, because as long as we can communicate together and as long as we can work cohesively, we can accomplish anything as a team. Okay, that's that fake, because no, that's not true. As long as everyone's doing that, then yeah, it's true. But when does the whole team pull their weight? No. You work hard, all right? But when you go to a job interview, you say things like, oh, my biggest weakness is that I care too much about perfection and I have a hard time letting go of a project until it's done properly. No, my biggest flaw, my biggest weakness is at 6 o'clock in the morning when that alarm clock's going off, all I want to do is hit the snooze button. That's my biggest weakness. My biggest weakness is that when my boss starts yelling at me, I just want to walk away. I don't want to have to tolerate his nonsense. That's my biggest weakness. All right. Fortunately, I don't have bosses that yell at me regularly, so I'm good there. All right. But that's the thing, folks, is that when we are dealing with law enforcement, we need that fake persona, that super polite. You don't kiss their butt. You don't tell them how awesome, how amazing, how much you respect the cops. If you don't have to. All right. But you do have to treat them like you would a business professional, like someone that is your equal or superior, because at that point in time, their goodwill is going to determine what happens to you. You make them angry by treating them like they're your second cousin that you don't like and saying whatever you want to them, well, then you may wind up going to jail. You want to treat them like they're a potential employer and with respect, dignity, and courtesy, never getting mad at them, even if what they're telling you is upsetting to you, not taking it like it's a personal attack, understanding they're just a person doing their job, and you're more likely to get a warning and get let go, right? So use the fake you. Use that fake bitch that we use when we job interview. Why, yes, officer, how may I assist you today? No, officer, I was not aware that I was speeding. Now, if they ask you, do you know why I pulled you over? If you think you know, or if you know exactly, don't just say it. Don't go, I was speeding. I didn't signal when I changed lanes. Why? Because that is an admission of guilt. Instead, we're going to play Jeopardy with them, right? We're going to be like, officer, did I not signal when I was changing lanes? Officer, was I driving too fast? Officer, did I forget to signal before that turn? Officer, did that light turn red right as I was going through the intersection? Like, it was green green when I started. Just ask a question. Do not admit, do not make declarative statements. Always ask a question. If they ask you a question, ask a question right back. Right? Do you know why I pulled you over? Was it because of this? No, it was actually this. Or yes, it was this. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I had done that. Because we don't accept guilt. We don't sit there and say, yes, I did that, because now there is no arguing it and the ticket's valid, even if it's not. All right? So that's step one. Step two, if you haven't already gotten the conversation regarding consent and romantic partners or consent and even friends, hey, can I give you a hug? Yes? Okay, and then you hug them. Can I hold your hand? Can I kiss your cheek? We get permission before we do anything when it comes to a partner, when it comes to a friend, because we're trying to ensure that we're not going to, do something that they're not comfortable with, right? That's why we ask for consent. Well, with law enforcement, consent does one more little thing. Consent keeps them calm, keeps them relaxed, keeps them comfortable. Because the second that a law enforcement officer gets scared, gun comes out the holster, and then your situation is no longer as fun. Your situation is definitely going to end in an arrest or a ticket once that happens. Could even be the taser comes out the holster. You make them nervous, they will prepare to defend themselves. So don't make them nervous. Don't put them in that situation. Ask for permission. Officer, I'm going to reach over into my glove box with my right hand, leaving my left hand on the wheel. Explain it to them like it's like one of those stupid little manuals that tells you how to put everything together from Sharper Image or IKEA. There you go. It's like, all right, with my right hand, I'm going to reach over into the glove box, open it up, and pull out my registration information. All right? I'm going to leave my left hand on the wheel. Is that all right, officer? Yes. And then you nice and slow and do exactly what you told them. And then when you do come back holding anything, regardless of what it is, hold it like it's covered in poo. Hold it like you barely want to be touching it, 2 fingers. Why? Because even a hairbrush coming out from behind your seat like this, holding it the wrong way, can give them the impression that it's a weapon and can make them want to pull their gun. And remember, once they pull their gun, your situation is not going to end without any kind of drama, even if it is just a hairbrush that you're grabbing. Okay? To grab and hold everything like it's covered in poo. And if you do have a weapon in the car, identify it to him and let the officer figure out what he wants done. All right? Now, having said that, let's go into the program. All right, this is the Texas Community Safety Education Act. The purpose and goal of this is to give information for drivers, public students, and also training members of law enforcement to set expectations that each should have during the contact between officers and motorists. And what expectation? It's the expectations are so that we can lessen tensions and anxieties that may rise during interactions between officers and citizens during traffic stops and other encounters that could lead to undesired outcomes. All right? I've been pulled over as a private citizen by someone that I do not know. I remain professional. I explained to them exactly what happened. I asked them if they were going to give me a ticket after I complied with all their requests, and they were like, nah, that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and give you a warning this time. And I was like, thank you very much, officer. Is there anything else I can help you with today before you let me go? He was like, nope, that's it. And I was like, all right, sir, thank you so much. I put on my signal. Okay? Because regardless, it's their job. Okay? You don't get mad at a garbage man for throwing your trash. You can't get mad at the police when they come after you if you did something illegal. I mean, you chose to break the law. That's going to happen, right? The instructional objective is to interact responsibly with law enforcement officers to provide a safe environment for both public and law enforcement during a traffic stop and other in-person encounters. Because too many people think it's okay to touch cops, to get in a cop's face, to yell at a cop, to do a bunch of things. And we need to learn that, it's a person doing their job. We need to treat them with respect so they can treat us with respect. Because that is what's expected, right? Even if you are being arrested. That's why, unfortunately, there's so many instances where we do see police on the news, because when police disrespect someone that's being arrested and like freaking drop on them knee first, yeah, that's going to look terrible, all right? But, in every job, there are going to be people that shouldn't be there. I mean, let's look at our presidents. We've had 54 now, and like 2 of them, maybe 3. 3 of them, just reprobates, just bad people. The most recent bad one was just crazy on top of everything else. Should not have been president. But that's the thing, folks, is that people get into jobs when they shouldn't have them. So please don't judge 99.9% of law enforcement by the actions of that 0.01. All right, because there are over 5,000 departments in the United States. Okay, that means that there's at least 50,000 cops, because a small department has about 10 people. A big department could have over 200. Okay, so there are at least 50,000 law enforcement officers, and we hear about 5 or 10 people that just need to be fired every year. All right, maybe 20. That's still not any kind of real percentage of that. All right, folks? So we need to understand. All right, now, the knowledge and skills that we get from this is to safely and responsibly show proper behavior and actions for civilians during interactions with law enforcement during traffic stops and other in-person encounters, because it's paramount, right? Because why are they out there? Why are they doing their gig? They're out there to keep you safe and to get you home safely. Okay? Used to be protect and serve. Yeah, law enforcement is now protect and enforce. Okay? They are going to protect you, but they are going to enforce the laws. Okay? So as long as you know how to behave, they don't have to enforce them on you. Right? Because reasons for traffic stops, well, violations, right? You could be speeding, you could be tailgating, that's following too closely. Okay? Weaving in your lane, if your car is doing this and going back and forth, this is a sign that a driver is either intoxicated, under the influence of drugs, or maybe they're just really tired and shouldn't be driving. But if your car is going back and forth on the road this much, you are a hazard to yourself and other drivers. Okay? Improper turns, maybe you didn't signal, maybe you took the turn too fast, maybe you turned into the wrong lane. Unsafe passing, anywhere where it's not safe to be passing or legal, if you're attempting to pass there, you can absolutely get pulled over for it. If you're passing while speeding, you're going to get a speeding ticket on top of it. Okay? If you're not buckled up, Texas is a click it or ticket state. No seatbelt, yes ticket. And here's something that maybe will help keep you and all your passengers buckled up. There's you and 4 passengers in the car, right? If no one's wearing their seatbelt, you get 5 tickets. 1 for you and 1 for allowing each of those 4 people to ride in the car. And then they get their own ticket. So it's a total of 9 citations for a total of 5 people. And you get 5 of them because you were the driver. So are you going to drive with someone else when they're not wearing their seatbelt? No, because they'll get a ticket and so will you for letting them. All right? My own grandfather, I never got to drive him because he refused to wear a seatbelt, and I refused to drive anybody that wouldn't put one on. That was me, because it's just not safe. And you're 5 times more likely to die in the event of a collision if you're not wearing your seatbelt. So no. And then cell phone use, texting, Twittering, Instagramming, YouTubing, any of that while driving is illegal. You can't have your phone in your hand. Bluetooth, hands-free technology. That's it. Okay? And that's only if you're already 18 and you have at least 6 months driving experience. If you are under 18 and you get caught using your cell phone, that's definitely legal. Now, unfortunately, it's only $100 the first time. But if you have an accident and they prove that it was the cell phone, you also get the distracted driving, the cell phone use, texting while driving, and the reckless endangerment. So it can become multiple citations. Don't use your cell phone while you're in the car, right? Put it in the back seat, put it in your bag, put it in the glove box, turn it off while you're driving. Whatever you got to do to not answer it, do it. Right? Now, reasons for traffic stop, you could also have a vehicle malfunction. Your tail light's out, your headlight's out, you got a low tire, maybe you got a brake light out. If any of these are the case, thank the officer for letting you know. Officer, thank you so much for letting me know my headlight's out. Do you know where the nearest location I can go buy one is? An O'Reilly's, an AutoZone or something? Or do you mind if I grab my phone so I can go ahead and check to see where that is so I can get that repaired as soon as you let me go? And now what have we done? He's like, I've pulled you over. And you're like, oh, thank you for the help. I needed this. You're the best. Thanks so much, officer. Here, let me get this taken care of. Right? Because that's what the situation becomes when you're like, oh, is my tail light out? Which one is it, officer? Okay, well, I need to go down to an AutoZone or whatever to go get that replaced. I can use my hand signals, right? Left turn, right turn, stop. And they're, yeah, you can do that. All right, well, thank you so much. You go ahead and have a nice day. Because every time a law enforcement officer hears from, and this is something that I've experienced with ride-alongs and from conversations with officers, every time they tell you, hey, your tail light's out, your headlight's out, your tire's low, your brake light's out, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's been like that since blah, blah, blah. I just haven't gotten around to fixing it yet. Ticket. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Let me go get that fixed right away. Because I know it's more important to get that fixed than it is to get to where I'm going on time because, without a signal, someone might hit me. Or they may not know what my hand signal means because not everyone's taken driver's ed in the last 30 years. Right? They're helping you out in this situation. Take ownership, take control, let them know you want to get it fixed, and boom, you may just get out of there with less than a warning. It's just a matter of they let you know something was wrong, and now you use those hand signals to get you where you need to be so that you don't get pulled over again. Right? My Firebird, before I got rid of it, the lights all went out. There was an electrical issue, and so I was doing hand signals all on the way down to my mechanic shop, and I get pulled over, and the officer's like, "Sir," and I'm like, "Officer, what's going on?" I don't think I was speeding. I was going under the limit. Like, yeah. Can you tell me why you were using hand signals? It's like, oh, I have an electrical issue on the car, and I didn't get the car to the shop, and I still got a signal, right? And he's like, yeah. And then he walks around the car, and the Firebird has that glass rear windshield that looks straight down into where the trunk would be, and he makes sure that there's no dead body in there. And then he's like, all right, sir, well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, let you know that, or make sure that you were doing okay, that you weren't having some kind of weird emergency or something. You have a good day, sir. And he just took off. That's just making sure why I was using hand signals, making sure I wasn't in trouble, trying to help me out. And then state requirements, your registration is expired, well, that's all on you. That's that sticker on the front. You have 2 weeks after it expires that generally they won't give you a ticket. But by the middle of the next month, the 15th and beyond, yeah, they'll give you a ticket because you wasted 2 weeks. You didn't get your ticket on time, or your sticker on time. And then license plates missing because your vehicle is required to have a license plate on the front and in the back in Texas. Well, if your license plate's missing, chances are someone may have stolen it to disguise their car. And if the cops tell you that someone took it or tell you that it's missing, you can be like, sweet, can I file an information report? Because that shouldn't be missing. I do believe someone stole it from me. And once again, we've taken the situation, we've turned it around, we're now in control, and we're letting the officer know. But still, let them finish up with what they're doing. Don't try to force it, because if you try to control the situation instead of letting them pivot themselves over to the report, they can continue with the traffic stop if they want to. There's nothing saying that they can't give you the citation for it. So remain polite, let them excuse you. All right? But do ask if you can fill in an information report, because if you have an information report that your license plate was stolen and someone robs a liquor store with a gun, well, that's aggravated assault, aggravated robbery, right? When that happens, law enforcement looks at the license plate of the vehicle that they caught fleeing the scene, they pull up the address, and then they take like 15, 20 officers down to that house with assault rifles, knock down the door, scare the snot out of the entire household. It's kind of like getting swatted, that thing that little kids like to do to people that beat them at Call of Duty. Because that's exactly what happens. Now, if you have an information report on file, and then there's a report, and hey, this vehicle just robbed a liquor store. Oh, we've got a report from 2 days ago that their license plates were stolen. It's probably not them. Instead, you'll get a phone call, and they're like, hey, where were you an hour ago? And you'll be like, I'm in Brownsville. Oh, okay, yeah, no, not you. Do you have anyone that can corroborate that for you? Yeah, I do. This person and that person, I'm at their house right now. We can go live on Facebook if you want. Something like that can happen. But when you have the report already in, instead of swatting you, knocking down your door, scaring the snot out of everyone that lives in your house, they call you up and see where you're at. Okay? So it's a good thing if they pulled you over for that one. All right? Because what else can you do to get a traffic stop? Well, if you fit the description of a person who committed a crime, yes, it was a Hispanic male between 5'2" and 6 foot tall, short to medium length hair, and that's all the description they have. Well, that's like 80% of the guys in the valley, right? 5'2" to 6 foot tall. Only the really short, really tall, and the ones that have like super long or bald are excluded. Like completely bald. So you may fit the description of a crime. It may be a lousy description, but it happens. My cousin Joey has a tattoo on his face of a crucifix, and he's super brown, and he just keeps a little mustache and a little thing right here. And so he gets pulled over an awful lot because he fits the description of people that committed a crime regularly. Well, he chooses to live the stereotype, so it happens. All right? Your vehicle fits the description of a vehicle used in the crime. If you have a popular car, I drive a Silver Escape. I see at least one Silver Escape once a month. At least. That means like one new one that I hadn't seen before. Okay? That means there's at least 12 in the valley. Okay? So my vehicle may fit the description of one used in a crime. If I've already filed a report because an officer pulled me over to let me know about my missing license plates, they probably won't come knock down my door because of it. All right? They can pull you over for safe driving. Technically, that's what the individual was doing when they pulled me over for signaling by hand. They were checking to make sure that everything was okay and letting me know that thank you for signaling. That's it. Okay, so, and I've seen this happen. I've never seen this happen where the person was happy they got pulled over for safe driving, but I've seen this happen. Okay? Your vehicle was used in and or you committed a crime. If you commit a crime, they can pull you over. That's probable cause. If a vehicle that looks just like yours using your license plates committed a crime, they can pull you over. That's probable cause. If you lent your car to a friend and they robbed a gas station while they borrowed it, your vehicle was used in a crime, that's probable cause. So yeah, you can get pulled over for all of these. Now, our reactions range from scared, angry, nervous, target, frustrated. I once had a giggle fit because I got pulled over. The very first time I got pulled over. All right, traffic stops are going to be emotional for us because we're getting pulled over. All right, but don't be afraid of cops. They're not out there to be bad guys. All right, please don't think that those terrible people that you see on the news are a true representation, because cops from the valley are people from the valley, gente. They're not going to be like those super insanely racists. Not most of the time. And when those people do come up, we report them. We provide information to the department, letting them know about the terrible behavior of that one officer. Eventually, those people get determined to be genuinely terrible, and they get gotten rid of. All right? But it is not personal for them. They are at work. They are doing their job. They just want to finish their day. All right? So you stay calm, stay polite, stay respectful, and your day is going to go a lot better. All right? Get indignant, get mad at them, and your day is going to get a lot worse, because that's not what you need to be doing. All right? Now, the law. The law states that a driver needs to immediately stop when approached by an authorized emergency vehicle. You will be arrested for attempting to flee if you do not stop. All right? If you stop in an unsafe location, a bridge or high-traffic highway, an officer may direct you over the public address system, the speaker on their car, to move to a safer spot. Okay? When you're getting pulled over, the smart thing to do is slow down by 10 or 15 miles an hour and drive on until you can get to somewhere safe to pull over off the roadway. Okay? Whether you take a turn to get off the main road or you pull into a parking lot, so that everyone can be safe. That's why you see that happen a lot. People pull into parking lots and then the cop pulls in behind them. Right? You can also, or you are also required to follow the officer's instructions. If they say stay in your vehicle, stay in your damn car. If you get out of your car and they're stay in your vehicle, stay in your vehicle. Once their hand is on their holster, you're about 5 seconds away from getting arrested or shot or tased. Okay? Follow their instructions. Do not get upset. Do not yell at them. Remember, job interview. Pretend it's a job interview and this person is going to determine your future, because that's kind of what's going on. All right? Now, you do have to slow down. Okay? Park your vehicle to the right side of the road or to the right side of the main traffic lane. Park on the right shoulder if it's available, or on a nearby well-lit side street or parking lot, away from high-volume traffic if the shoulder is unavailable. Police don't want to get run over while they're trying to give someone a ticket. Nor do they want to be run over while they're trying to give someone a warning. So please make sure that you're parking somewhere so that they can approach you safely. Right? Well, what else? Well, you need to place the vehicle in park. You need to set the emergency brake and turn the engine off and activate your hazard lights. Your hazard lights, the emergency lights, should come on the second you start getting pulled over, to signify to the officer that, boom, I recognize that you're pulling me over, and I am complying. Okay? Now, the very first time I got pulled over, I forgot to turn off the engine on my vehicle, and I heard the gun come out the holster, and that's when I started giggling. And the officer thought I was going to hit her. Okay? Now, I knew the officer, and when the officer screamed out after they drew their gun, "Will the driver please turn your vehicle off?" I was like, oh my God, I forgot to turn off my car. And I started laughing even harder. And then I said, "Yes, officer," and I name dropped her. And I shut off the car, and then I heard her go, "What the?" And I just started laughing even harder. And she came up, and like her gun was like pointed at me, and she just kind of came around. And then she saw my face. "Damn it, Steve, you scared me." Okay. Remember to turn the engine off. If you don't, they think you're going to try to flee, and boom, gun automatically jumps out of the holster. All right? Follow their instructions. All right? If it's at night, turn on the interior dome light. If it's during the day and you have heavy tint, make sure you open up all the windows. Okay? Remain in your car. Lower the driver's side window, all of them if your windows have dark tint. Keep both hands clearly in sight on top of the steering wheel, and wait for a law enforcement officer to give you instructions. When they ask you for something, ask for permission to grab it the way I explained. Just permission. "May I do this?" Once they say yes, you do exactly what you described. Okay? They can approach you from either side of the vehicle. They're not doing anything shady if they're coming in from the passenger side. Usually they're just trying not to stand where they're going to accidentally get hit by a car, or you're going to be so close that you could do something to them and they can't see what you're doing. All right? Nothing wrong. All right? Now, hands empty. You should not be holding anything in your hands, including a cell phone. If you want to record your interaction, grab your phone, double-click the power button. That automatically brings up the camera. Set it to the camcorder mode, unless you have an Apple. I don't know if it does that. Set on the camcorder, turn it on, and drop it in the cup holder. Do not be sticking it in his face. You are legally allowed to record the interaction just like they're legally allowed to record the interaction. You are not legally allowed to be, okay, can you repeat that again, officer? Can you repeat that again to the camera, please? You're not allowed to be sticking it in their face. You're not allowed to be holding it. Put it down. Empty hands, hands on the wheel. All right? Anything in your hands may appear to be a handgun. That's why whenever we hold something, we always hold it like it's covered in poo, like we don't want to be touching it. Okay? Don't grab anything in a way where it can be perceived as a weapon. All right? For drivers and passengers, do not reach, dig, search for your license, insurance, or documents before or while an officer is approaching. If they see you quickly moving, trying to get stuff together, that's called furtive movement. They're going to think one of two things. They're going for a weapon or they're trying to hide something. Either way, you just made your situation worse. Just wait there. Let them come to you. Let them tell you what they want, and then you get permission to do everything you need to do to satisfy their request. All right? Tell the officer if you are transporting any type of weapon. I keep a 12-inch buck knife literally right next to me. Like, I can either unclick my seatbelt or grab my 12-inch buck knife. Like, that's where I keep it. That'll be the first damn thing I mention when I get pulled over. If I have my sidearm with me, my sidearm will be the second thing that I mention. Because I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to be well protected. Okay. Drivers who transport handguns in their vehicles are encouraged to keep them in a separate location from their license and insurance documentation. If you open the glove box and the officer sees a gun and you're reaching, you're going to get a bullet to the back of the head. Because they're more liable to panic because you're literally reaching for where there is a gun. Okay? If you do have a firearm once you're over 21 and not a felon, keep it somewhere safe and don't keep it loaded. Keep the ammo somewhere separate. It needs to take 30 seconds to load from the moment you grab the gun. So, you got to find somewhere to put it that's going to take you a little bit to get to. All right. Now, before reaching into your glove box or under the seat to retrieve your proof of insurance, inform the officer where the items are located and follow the officer's directions. This is where the consent game comes into play, right? Ask them for permission to do anything and everything you need to so that they stay safe, so that they feel safe. Now, if you're stopped for a violation of law, an officer may ask you to exit the vehicle for any reason. Ma'am, please step out of the car. Sir, please step out of the car. Do not get offended. Do not get upset. Do not get indignant if they lean you against your car and handcuff you. Okay? If you were digging for something, they may be thinking you were trying to hide something. Okay? Do not get upset until they start saying you have the right to remain silent. You are not under arrest. But if you get indignant and you start fighting with them, start arguing with them, start telling them, I'm not getting out of my car, I have rights, you don't have the right to not follow their instructions. Right? You don't. If asked to exit the vehicle, check for passing vehicles and exit safely. Don't just throw open the door, because if a car hits your door after you open it to get out, you're responsible for that damage and you did it in front of the cops because you didn't look. Right? Open your door carefully. Right? Law enforcement officers, drivers, and passengers should respond with courtesy during the stops and other officer-citizen interactions. If an officer is sexist, racist, or derogatory in any way, shape, or form, you're not allowed to clap back. But you do get to go report them afterwards. Okay? I know it's tough, especially when someone's in your face. You know, when an officer, I saw his name, and I started speaking to him in Spanish and then I suddenly became a dangerous illegal immigrant to him because I assumed he spoke Spanish just because his last name was Galarza. It's Galarza, sir. It's not even in Spanish. I then got frisked. I got handcuffed. My entire car was checked. And I remained calm. It's like, all right, officer, I'll do what you need me to do. And then the second he let me go, I asked for directions to the police department because I had to go file an information report regarding his treatment of me. At that point, He was trying to say I could no longer go. I was like, no, officer, you told me I can go, but that's fine. What would you like to discuss with me before I take off to head to the department? How can I help you some more, sir? Because he told me I couldn't go. And then there was nothing he could say because he couldn't order me not to do it. He couldn't make something up. The camera on their car is recording them too. Okay? The reason they stay until you're done and you leave is so that they have that video proving that you let them go and you didn't just like murder them. Or they didn't just like murder you from law enforcement. All right? So, behave. And if they don't get upset. Go tell the department about it. All right? Drivers and passengers should not exit the vehicle unless asked to do so. If you've ever seen that movie, Meet the Fockers, the Ben Stiller movie where he takes De Niro and them to go meet his family, all three of those guys get arrested for getting out the car, and that could absolutely happen. Didn't need any other cause other than the fact that they failed to follow police officers' instructions. They exited the vehicle. They put themselves in a situation where they could get arrested. All right, exiting your vehicle may be perceived as an aggressive behavior and a threat to the officer's safety. The last thing you want to do is get shot or tased because you wanted to get out and disgusting like adults and face standing on your feet. Just get permission. If you don't get permission to do something, don't do it, folks. All right. Advise passengers to remain in the car unless instructions are given by a law enforcement officer. Advise passengers to behave and be courteous to the officer. If you have the funny guy in your car, that person that has to make a joke, tell them to shut the hell up. I had a friend, we got pulled over, and the officer asked, do you folks have any drugs on you? And my friend, we were on our way to go watch the very first Jurassic Park in theaters the day it was opening, and my friend decided to say, I don't have any drugs on me, but I got some in me, which led to all of us being asked to step out of the car. All of us were frisked. All of us were checked, and we lost a half an hour. We missed all the previews and the trailers and the first 3 minutes of the movie, which really sucks because that was an epic 3 minutes. All because this one person made a stupid joke. So if you have the funny guy in the car, tell them that if they make any jokes and get y'all in deeper trouble than you already are, you're going to leave them there by the side of the road. Because that's what we did. His mom and dad had to come pick him up, and the officers stayed there waiting for them. So they got to talk to him and found out exactly why he got kicked out of the car. Needless to say, he didn't want to talk to us anymore after the chewing out that he got from his parents. But why was he going to mess around with a cop like that, especially on such an important day? All right. At the conclusion of the traffic stop, give appropriate signals because you are required to signal and you are required to exit safely. Safely return to the proper lane of traffic when released by the law enforcement officer. When the officer releases you, they will wait for you to move your vehicle first so that they have video of the interaction coming to a conclusion. It is done. You sign the ticket. You're leaving. Boom. Case closed. The interaction ended right there because here's the video of you leaving. Now, if you fail to signal, the officer can pull you over again and give you a ticket for failure to signal. I saw this happen. The lady took the signal, or that ticket as well. She kept her senses, took the ticket, but this time she signaled and peeled out, threw rocks at the windshield, put a couple chips on the windshield, got pulled over again for damaging police property, exhibition of acceleration, because that's what peeling out is. That ticket, she told him he could shove right up somewhere very dark and special. And then you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law began. Right? Refrain from arguing the charge during a traffic stop or detention. Signing the citation is not an admission of guilt. You are simply stating you know when you have to go to court. Okay, if you want to contest the charge, you can argue your case before the judge or request a trial by jury. This woman refused to sign the third ticket she was about to get. First one was for speeding. Second one was failure to signal. Third one was exhibition of acceleration and damage to police property. And she refused to sign it, so she was arrested. Right? Just type in refuse to sign the ticket on YouTube, and you will see lots of people arrested because all the ticket says is this is when I'm going to court, or I need to go to court about these charges, and I know what the date is, and I know where it is. That's all that signing the ticket is admitting, that you know when you have to go to court. Well, there's only one other way for them to know you're going to make it to court on time on the proper day. If you don't sign the pinky promise double swear that you're going to go, then, well, they need to arrest you and make sure that you do go. Okay? The role of law enforcement is to provide assistance to Texas citizens, enforce state's traffic laws, and ensure you make it home safely and that they make it home safely. That's the gig. Okay? Hometown superheroes. These are people that choose to put their life on the line, work in a job that they know people are going to hate them just because that's their job, because they want to protect people. So understand that, Iron Man may be kind of douchey, but he's still out there trying to save the day. So give him, a little bit of extra patience. All right? Now, your rights, you have the right to remain silent except for truthfully identifying yourself. Okay? You have to provide your ID or your name, date of birth, and address. Okay? You have the right to refuse to have your vehicle searched. But if the officer has a reason to believe that the vehicle contains evidence of a crime, it can be searched even without consent. They can always call in the drug-sniffing dog and be like, oh, the dog just signaled, because are you trained in how to identify when a drug-sniffing dog signals? Neither am I. So I have no way of knowing for sure whether or not the dog gave an indication or not. You won't either. So then you're just going to have to let them search your car anyway. But if you have nothing to hide, let them search. As long as they're not being obnoxious about it, it's not going to cost you anything but a little bit of time. All right? If an officer suspects a weapon, they may conduct a pat-down search. Traditionally, you should not be patted down by someone of the opposing gender. Now, for those of you that do not identify as male or female, whatever you were designated at birth, if you have not fully transitioned, if you have not fully transitioned, whatever you were designated at birth, that is the gender of the individual that is legally allowed to frisk you, or that should be frisking you. Okay? In regards to the law, it is a legal issue. All right. Men are no longer allowed to be frisking women in all the spots where they could be hiding stuff because sexual harassment. Women, vice versa, cannot be doing anything like that to men. If you do not identify as male, if you identify as female, but you're still in possession of the original equipment, unfortunately, that's that like gray zone. Most likely you're going to get frisked by a male if you've still got the original equipment. If you don't, you can say, I'm fully transitioned and I request a woman frisk me, and they should comply with it because you are fully transitioned. But guys, if you've ever been frisked, you know that thing is like TSA thorough. So if you still have the equipment and you say you don't, they're going to know that you do. Because like I said, TSA thorough. All right. Now, you have to show your driver's license. We are required to carry it, folks. If you do not show your driver's license, you provide them your name, address, or date of birth. That will allow them to pull up your driving record. A better thing to do once you're an adult is memorize your driver's license number. Okay, mine is 8 digits long, or they're all 8 digits long, and I've had mine memorized since I was 19. Because if you forget your driver's license, but you know the driver's license number, that immediately brings up your driving record, and law enforcement will generally treat it as though you have proof of a license on you when you can provide that number. That's a ticket if you forget it at home. But if you have the number, they're usually more cool about it. So memorize the number. Once you turn 18, memorize that number. Before you turn 18, you gotta have the card on you. It's the law. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no wiggle room. Okay? It's the card itself is physically required to be in your person. When you're an adult, proof of insurance or proof of license is sufficient. Knowing that number does count as proof, right? You will commit an offense if you give false or fictitious name or information. Okay? There's a dude in Canada serving a 15-year sentence who refuses to be named. He refuses to provide his name and information, so he's in jail for 5 years for what he originally did, 10 years for failure to identify himself, but at the end of his 15 years, they're going to let him go, and his criminal record is going to be clear. It just cost him 10 years in jail, right? He is fingerprinted in Canada, so I mean that's still going to happen, but it's not going to be tied to his name because he refused to identify. But the first time he commits a crime and does have some ID on him, or someone does identify him, well, then those charges from Canada are going to show up in his background, and that's going to be his third strike, right? Now, if you feel that you are in an unsafe area to stop immediately, or if you have concerns that the vehicle is not a real police vehicle, you can take the following steps to minimize your risk of being arrested or charges being filed against you. Okay? Turn on your hazard lights and drive slowly and carefully below the posted speed limit. You may drive to a nearby, well-lit, populated place to stop, okay? Because you will be arrested, or if you are guilty of evading arrest or detention, that's a crime. It is an offense to intentionally flee from a law enforcement officer. And it's subject to higher penalties if you're using a vehicle or watercraft to flee and you hurt or kill someone. Because then those injuries are a direct result of your malicious desire to escape from police, therefore you did them on purpose. Maximum sentencing because you did it while fleeing a law enforcement officer. If you're getting pulled over, get pulled over. If you know you're about to get arrested, you're about to get arrested anyway. Right? Don't add another charge on top of that, please, because that's just longer jail time. And if you accidentally kill someone while going, it's even more time in jail. All right, folks, so don't do it. Okay. Now, if you do have to file a compliment or complaint, okay, this is the form we want to fill out. It's called a sworn affidavit. Everything that you put on here has to be 100% factual. If you put a single lie on there, it is an offense. It is a felony to falsify a sworn affidavit. It's just like perjury in court. It's illegal. Okay, so if you put something on here, it has to be 100% true and provable. Why? Because it does. All right, but here's the thing. If it's 100% true and you can prove it, and the cop was being a douche canoe, then boom, the cop will get arrested if you can prove it. Right? If it's 100% true but you can't prove it, but they can't prove that it's a lie either, you won't be charged with anything. And the third time that sort of complaint gets made about the officer, then they'll take it seriously. But without evidence, it's your word against theirs, and unfortunately, stuff happens. All right? But if someone does a good job, please go in and fill out one of these. If the cop gave you a ticket and at the end of the day you were like, still, this is the best cop this town has, please go tell them, because that's how we get the good officers promoted, right? And if you have a bad experience, if the officer is sexist, if they try to insinuate that they'll let you go if you do stuff to them or for them, go in and fill that complaint, because we do not need those kind of people. That's how we get rid of that 1% that suck, by filling this out. And that's how we get those best of the best in charge, by filling this out. So don't be afraid, folks. All right? To file a complaint or compliment, you may follow agency guidelines for submitting complaint and compliments. Information you need to file is located on the citation that you were given. Okay? And that's it. That's dealing with police. Just remember the simpleness. All right? Don't get mad. Don't get in their face. Follow their instructions. Don't do anything without permission. And don't take it personal, because it's not personal for them. Okay? Now, stopping distances. All right? Once the brakes have been applied, about how many feet does a car which was going 70 miles an hour travel before it comes to a full stop? Well, at 70 miles an hour, once the brakes have been applied, it takes 233 feet for the vehicle to stop. Okay? That's this second number over here. 154 is how long it takes for us to see the problem and then move from the gas to the brake pedal, about a second and a half. Okay? Because we travel at 1.5 feet per second per mile per hour. I love that mathematical expression. It sounds like a crazy cat lady's favorite, but it's my favorite. It's how we convert miles into feet. So if you're going 70 miles an hour, well, half of 70 is 35. So you're going 105 feet, because 70 plus 35 is 105. 105 feet every second. So it's just under a second and a half is the average response time. And then after you hit the brakes, it's 233 feet. For a total stopping distance of 387 feet. At 60 miles an hour, it only takes 303 feet to stop. Okay, that's 100 yards or a football field. Okay. At 70 miles an hour, you can add the end zones and the track around it and all the paparazzi, because you have all that extra distance. It's no longer just 101 yards. Now it's 129 yards. That's a massive distance, folks. That's a massive difference for only 10 miles an hour. Okay. Now, think about how cars follow each other on the expressway, right? You're driving along and you're driving, or you see a car driving and then there's another car, or sometimes even like an 18-wheeler just right on top of the other vehicle. What happens when the red car messes up? Do they take care of their car? What if they hit a bump the wrong way and their axle snaps? What's going to happen to the blue car? The only thing that you can do when you follow a car this closely is put your life in their hands. Is hope that they're not going to make a mistake that costs you your life. All right? Now, they don't give you this chart for the test, but on the test, they only ask you about two speeds. Okay? They ask you about 20, and they ask you about 40. Now, the 20, they can ask you in one of three ways. Okay? as we see, we got 3 numbers on there. So they could ask you for the total stopping distance, that's 63. They could ask you for the braking distance, that's 19 feet. Or they could ask you for your reaction distance, that's 44 feet. So if you want to remember all of those numbers, just remember 44 plus 19 equals 63 feet to stop going 20 miles an hour. Okay? Just remember it like that, like it's a little equation with an explanation. 44 plus 19 equals 63 feet to stop going 20 miles an hour. Now the other number they ask you about is 50, and they will only ask you about the 229. That is the only thing they want to know. But the reason these numbers are important is because A, going 20, your brakes work the best. That is why it only takes 19 feet to stop. 20 or lower, and your brakes are just unbeatable. They stop you on a dime. Okay? Now, let's look at going 50. All right? Well, going 40, it takes 88 feet to hit the brakes and 76 feet to stop. Going 60, it takes 132 feet to hit the brakes, 171 feet to stop. But 50 is where that swap happens, where it now takes longer after you hit the brakes to stop than before. Okay? Now, stopping distance is affected by velocity, because velocity squared, or a change in velocity squared, is the change in stopping distance. What does that mean? Well, let's look at 20 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour. All right, going 20 miles an hour, once you hit the brakes, it takes 19 feet to stop the car. We double the speed, and now at 40 miles an hour, it takes 76 feet, or square of the change. All right, well, what's the change? We doubled the speed. Well, the square of double, square of 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Well, 4 times 19 is 76. It takes 4 times longer to stop after hitting the brakes if you're going twice as fast. So if you're going 80 miles an hour, we don't have 80 on this chart, but we can figure it out. Because 40 is half of 80, that means it's going to be 4 times higher. Okay? 6 times 4 is 24, 4 times 7 is 28. So 304 feet after you hit the brakes. That's longer than the stopping distance going 60 miles an hour. And that's after you hit the brakes. It's also going to be another, let's see, at 80 miles an hour, it's going to be another 166 feet before you even stop. So for a total stopping distance of 480 feet, or 470 feet. That's an 80-foot difference. More than an 80-foot difference, an 83-foot difference from just 70 miles an hour. Okay? That's why they ask you about these 2 speeds. Because 40 or 50 is where it now takes longer to stop after you hit the brakes than to hit the brakes themselves. And they ask you about 20 because that's where it works the best. That's where brakes work the best. But speed makes a huge difference. 10 miles an hour, I was only speeding 10 miles an hour. Well, that means if you're going 40 and a 30, that means it's now going to take you 55 feet longer to stop. 55 feet, that's the length of a school bus, folks. That is a big, big, big difference. And that's speeding on the slowest road possible. On the slowest normal speed limit possible for a regular driving road. Going 10 miles an hour over the limit is going to add more than half to your total stopping distance. That's crazy. That's why speed kills. Because that little bit of speed means you can't stop as easy, and you're more likely to get into a collision because the speeds are lower on those roads because people are more likely to wind up in front of you. All right, so please remember that. 44 to hit the brakes, 19 to stop equals 63 total stopping distance. Or 44 plus 19 equals 63 feet to stop going 20 miles an hour. Going 50, we just got to remember that 229. Right, question 10, when is it necessary to stop before proceeding when you overtake a school bus loading or unloading children? You must yield the right-of-way to school buses and always drive with care when you are near a school bus. If you approach a school bus from either direction and the bus is stopped, displaying alternately flashing lights, you have to stop. If the bus is stopped picking up kids, you have to stop, unless there is a median, which could be grass or whatever, or a physical barrier like a wall between your lane and the lane the school bus is in. So if the bus is on frontage and you're on express, you get to keep going. Okay? If you're on one side of the road going one direction and there's a median dividing the other side that's going the opposite direction, but it's not an expressway, well, that median that's dividing, it allows you to keep going. If there's nothing between your lane and the lane the bus is in, you gotta stop while the bus is stopped. The second time you pass it, they take your license away because they are recording. When that door opens up, you ever notice that school buses open their doors when they get to the railroad crossing? They stop, they open the door real quick, and then they go. When that door opens, the camera comes on. So they're taking a snapshot going, look, I stopped at the railroad tracks, and then they close it and continue on. Right. Within how many feet of a crosswalk may you park when parking near a corner? When it comes to in-city driving, there's only 3 numbers you need to remember. When it comes to the in-city rules, there's only 3 numbers you really need to remember. 20 feet from a crosswalk, 15 feet from a fire hydrant, and 100 feet for all the little driving rules. How far in advance do you have to signal? 100 feet. How far ahead or how close to an intersection can you get before moving back to your original lane when attempting to pass another vehicle? 100 feet. You should not be on the left side of the road when you are within 100 feet of an intersection, bridge, or railroad crossing. Right? How far do you need to travel with your signal on, minimum distance? 100 feet before changing lanes. So you only need to remember those 3 numbers. 20 for the crosswalk, 15 for the hydrant, and 100 feet for all the other little in-city rules. Right? But this allows traffic from the cross street to be able to turn without interference. Because if you're parked too close to the corner, there may not be enough room for a car to be going straight and another car to turn into the roadway. Okay? What is the state speed limit for automobiles in urban districts? An urban district is quite simply in city. So what's the speed limit for automobiles in city? If you can't see a speed limit sign, you default it to 30. If you're within the city limits, it's 30 miles an hour unless a sign tells you otherwise. All right, what does this mean for you? That means if you don't get up and make your own speed up if you're not sure. If you're not sure, if you can't see a sign, then 30. Oh, and folks, in case you do not already know this, switch to my big screen. I know I should do this nicer, but meh. It's a simple lesson. I don't feel like putting a ton of effort into it. All right, so here we got some speed limit signs. We got the 50, we got the 30, we got the 45. So if you're driving from over here, if you're driving from over here and you're going this way, all right, well, it's 50 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. Before you get to this 30 mile an hour sign, you need to slow down to 30 miles an hour. Because once you get to this point, the speed limit is now 30. If you're still slowing down and you go 45 as you cross that sign, well, you can get pulled over right away for speeding. Now, when the speed is increasing, you're going 30, and you're coming up to this 45, you're not allowed to start accelerating until you get to where the sign is. Because up until you hit that sign, you can only go 30. An inch before the sign, the speed limit's 30. An inch after the sign, speed limit's 45. So slow down when you're arriving at a slower zone, and speed up after you enter the faster zone. Okay? Do not speed up when you're here, coming this way, or even here, coming this way. Wait until you pass the sign and then start accelerating. All right? I like to give this lesson to my adults so they don't get speeding tickets because they should know better, but a lot of them don't. And none of them have ever known except for one guy. And I was all excited. I was like, sweet, who taught you? Did you take driver's ed? Did your dad teach you? Your grandpa? The Far Police Department. And he was just so like, oh, it sucks, but yeah. And I was like, did you get another speeding ticket? I did. What about after that one? No more speeding. That was too stupid. Because yeah, it's silly. You just wait a few seconds longer to start speeding up, or you slow down a few seconds earlier. All right? That's what's safe. Now, does a posted speed limit sign of 55 mean that you may drive 55 on that highway under all conditions? Absolutely not. Right? A speed limit of 55 means that we may drive 55 only under ideal conditions. Everything must be perfect if you want to drive the speed limit. Right? Now, you should never drive on the left half of the roadway when you are within how many feet from an intersection, bridge, or railroad crossing? Well, this is an in-city rule. And I just told y'all this one. So You should never drive on the left half of the roadway when you are within 100 feet of an intersection, bridge, or railroad crossing. Okay? What should you do if you discover you are in the wrong lane to make a turn as you enter an intersection? Just like that picture towards the end of the slides yesterday, we saw that lane was a turning lane, and you're like, oh man, we wanted to go straight, and you still had to turn. Well, if you're in the wrong lane to make a turn, if you're in the lane that makes you go straight, you gotta go straight and turn. You want to get in the proper lane 1/2 block or at least 100 feet before turning at an intersection. If you cannot get into the proper lane, continue straight ahead and attempt to change or attempt to turn at a different intersection. Okay? When two cars meet at an intersection of a 2-lane road with a 4-lane road, which one must yield the right of way? Okay? The lesser car always yields the right of way to the greater car. Okay? So here's the situation. Both cars stop at the same time. Both are going straight. Who goes first? Well, the purple one. Why? Because it only has to cross 2 lanes of traffic. It crosses 2 lanes of traffic, takes about 9 seconds, and then the blue car gets to go. If the blue car went first, it would take about 18 seconds before he crossed all 4 lanes of traffic, and then the purple car would get to go. Thus, it took longer for the process to continue on, right? That's why we do it in that order. The lesser road always yields the right of way to the greater. Okay? So the purple's on a 4, the blue's on a 2. Blue must allow purple to go first. The unpaved road must yield the right of way to paved, and a road with a higher speed limit must receive the right of way from one with a slower. So if you're on a road that's got a speed limit of 30 and you're crossing one with a speed limit of 50, you give them the right of way because they're going to hit you going faster. You're not going to get across that faster than they get to you, right? Now, in this situation, if both cars stop at the same time and both are going straight, who goes first? Remember, we mentioned that first stop, first go. Well, this is the more complicated situation. All right. In this situation, everything's the same number of lanes. There's no difference in speed, no difference in road condition. Who gets to go first? Well, the rule is called the right. Oh, my bad. Thank you. There we go. Who's going to get to go first in this situation where everything is the same? Well, it is called the right of way. Therefore, to keep things simple, the person to the right gets to go first when everyone arrives at the same time. All right. Now, there is another little rule that says that you may share the right of way. Okay. There is another rule that says you may share the right of way. So if you are on the opposite side as purple and you're either going to turn right or go straight, when purple starts to move, you get to start to move because you're sharing the right of way. Now, if you're going to turn left and go in front of purple, well, then you don't get to share the right of way. You now have to wait for your turn. All right? But as long as you're not going to interfere with the driver that does currently have the right of way and you are opposite them, you can go at the same time. If you're both going straight or if you're turning in one direction and they're going straight, as long as you're not going to interfere with each other or you're not going to interfere with the person that has the right of way, you get to share the right of way. Okay? The person to the right gets to go first, though, when 2 or more vehicles meet at an intersection at the same time. The person most to the right. All right? Now, the purple is approaching from the other side. Now the blue is to the right, and the purple has to yield the right of way to the blue one. Right? How many people from the valley do you think know this? Like the students, the young people, right? Because, I've seen a lot of people not take proper right of way. I've seen a lot of people not do proper stops, and because I do a full 3-second stop, and they only stop for half a second, they take the right of way ahead of me. So if law enforcement saw them, there would be failure to make a complete stop, failure to yield the right of way, and whatever other tickets that they may be able to provide them, because that's what happens, right? It's when you do something dangerous, something that puts someone else at risk, that's when you are going to get that ticket, for sure. Right? Because cops are going to give you chances all the time. You're going to make 100 real mistakes, and then you're going to do something genuinely dangerous and silly, and that's when you're going to get pulled over. All right? But you're going to be like 4 miles over the speed limit. You're going to be like, oh gosh, I'm speeding. And you slow down back to 30, and you look around, and there was a cop, and they never pulled you over. Ha ha, they didn't see me. They saw you. They were just like, man, not a big deal. Look, they even slowed down. Okay, we're cool. If they go any faster, though, I'm going to get them. All right. You may also allow the purple guard to go first. You can yield the right-of-way. We mentioned that, right? All right, so how do you do that? You know, wave your hand, flash your lights, and then they go. But what happens when you're trying to be the nicest person in the world and they're convinced they're the nicest person in the world? And then you're like, go ahead, buddy. And they're like, no, you go, my friend, you go. Okay, it's okay, my friend, you go. And you're like, no, come on, go ahead, please, take it. You may have the right of way. And they're like, no, I would like prefer very much for you to go. Okay. Don't do that. Don't play the who's the nicest person in the world, all right? The right of way is like true love, all right? If you let it go and it comes back to you, it's meant to be. And then you get to take the right of way and continue on, all right? But don't sit there and arguing because that is obstruction of traffic. All right? When you both refuse to move because you're trying to give the right of way away and neither of you wants to take it. All right? Now, if you have to signal by hand and lights and the driver signals you to go, don't signal back, take the right of way, and continue through the intersection. All right? It's that simple, folks. Okay? It's just like true love. Set it free. If it comes back, it's meant to be. Okay? Now, if you are driving and you hear a siren coming, what should you do? Okay? You are driving and you hear an emergency siren, what should you do? Okay. Yield the right of way to police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and other emergency vehicles sounding a siren bell or flashing red light. If traffic allows, pull to the right edge of the road and slow down. If the road is not wide enough for 2 or more lanes of travel in each direction, then pull completely over and stop your vehicle to the right side. If the shoulder is wide enough for you to drive in and they can drive in the lane to get past you, then you just move over, slow down by at least 20 miles an hour, and continue on until they pass you, then get back into your lane. Right? If there's not enough room for that, then you stop completely and let them get past you. What I do when I see an emergency vehicle is I think of my grandmother. I think that they're on their way to save my grandmother because my abuela, I would do anything for her when she was still alive. So I still, to this day, even though she's been gone for 14 years, I still think of it that way because it's somebody's grandmother, mother, father, brother, sister, uncle, cousin, friend, or significant other that the police are going to go help out. And just like I wouldn't want anyone to stall them from getting to my abuela, I wouldn't want to stall them from getting to my abuela, I wouldn't want to stall them from getting to anyone important to y'all either. Okay? So always give emergency vehicles the right of way and be awesome about it. All right? Because seconds count. They really do, folks. All right. Now, if you are in the middle of an intersection trying to turn left and you hear sirens coming, what do? Well, this one should really be further on down in the line because you may not understand what that means, waiting to turn left. But check it out. If you are in the middle of the roadway in an intersection and you're waiting to turn left and you hear sirens coming, just chill. Don't move. Stay still. They will choose the best way to get around you. And then even if the light changes to red, you still get to go. Because remember, green does not mean go. Green means you may go once the road is clear of vehicles, pedestrians, or non-electrical motorists, like bicycles, skateboards, rollerbladers, whatever. Okay? Nothing can be in the intersection before traffic starts going as normal. Okay? If there is still someone who's still in the intersection, everybody got to wait. Right? Now, what is the first thing that should be done when a car starts to skid? I like to call this fake it till you make it. All right? You don't jam on the brakes. You take your foot off the gas pedal if that's where it was. Okay? And since your car wants to go straight in the direction of the skid, steer in that direction. So no foot on the gas, no foot on the brakes. Why? Because gas and brakes don't work when you're skidding. You require traction for either of those services to work, either of those functions to work, and a skid is a sudden loss of traction. So foot off of both of them, steer in the direction of the skid, and when you feel that little shudder, that little shake, boom, you have recovered control of the vehicle. Now we can try to change direction, slow down, stop, whatever. All right, but sometimes we're already at that point where we're going to crash into something. Try to minimize the situation, don't give up, and, do what you have to stay safe. But don't try to force yourself back onto the roadway if you're just going to wind up causing a different crash. Okay? Now, ice and snow, or in ice and snow, even the most practiced, cautious driver can lose control and skid. Lord knows I have. Right? Here in South Texas, though, not an issue. We do not get ice and snow on a regular basis. Down here, the number one reason for loss of control for skidding is you're going too fast or you need new tires. Okay, and there's no excuse for either because speed limits exist for a reason, and new tires, we live in the only place where you can buy used tires, right? South Texas is it. I've been in other states and I've asked about a used tire shop and they look at me like I just asked them for, like a used toothbrush or a used bit of dental floss. They're like, that's disgusting. Why would you want to buy that used? You could die. That tire could pop on. Like, I had one guy go off on me about how reckless and dangerous that is. And I was like, bro, when you can't afford $250 for one tire, any port in the storm will do, right? So down in here in South Texas, you can be picky, you can be choosy, and get gently used tires to replace yours for $20-$30 a piece. And if you can't afford them all at once, you can get them one at a time. So there is no reason to be driving around on bald tires. All right? If you're picky and you don't take whatever they have, you just take the best stuff, the stuff that looks like it's practically new, then you're going to get quality stuff for that little bit of money that you spend. Because people wreck their cars with brand new tires all the time. And those are then used tires. Okay? Just like a car, they can't be sold as new anymore. Now, at what time of day should your headlights be turned on? So for those of you that like to drive in the absolute dark, that's okay. The state gives you 30 minutes after sunset to drive. Once it's completely black though, 30 minutes after the sun has gone down, then you need to get those headlights on. And then in the morning, if you want to drive without your headlights on, as long as the sun is going to rise in the next 30 minutes, you're good. You can turn your headlights off, right? That's for those of you daredevils, right? But those are the rules. 30 minutes after sunset, they go on. 30 minutes before sunrise, they go off. But anytime you cannot see clearly for 1,000 feet, you will also turn on your headlights. And folks, right here, I'm going to say this early on, and I'll repeat it throughout the lesson, right? We only use our high beams on unlit country roads at night by ourselves. Every other situation that you're driving, you will use the low beams. If you can't see clearly because of fog, rain, dust, snow, sleet, hail, whatever, low beams. High beams are only to be used on unlit country roads at night when you are by yourself on them. Okay? Okay. Under what conditions may your driver's license be suspended? Ooh, there's a bunch of them. All right, driving while intoxicated, driving under the influence, drug offenses, intoxication, manslaughter, failure to stop and render aid, causing the death or serious injury of anyone while operating a motor vehicle, involuntary manslaughter, any offense punishable as a felony under the motor vehicle laws of Texas, overtaking and passing a school bus, subsequent conviction. That means the second time you do it, you lose your license. Boating while intoxicated, because your license to drive is also a license to boat, and you can't operate any kind of motorized vehicle while under the influence of alcohol, or you will get a ticket. Because that's what the top ones are. And you can lose your license over it. Okay? So, driving while drunk or high, any of those. Getting caught with drugs, your license can go. Those red ones are for sure immediate. If you kill someone while you are drunk or you injure someone while you are drunk, you will lose your license. If you see an accident happen and you drive away and do not stop and render aid, and no one else does either, you can get arrested for that and lose your license. It's failure to stop and render aid. The law says we will stop and help in the event that we see an accident. It's not just something good people do. It's something the law requires us to do. And if you're ever like, but I can't be late to work. If your boss fires you for doing this, the lawyer that you go talk to will probably hug you and name their next kid after you because they're going to have it. All right? Because the law says we have to stop and render aid. If someone freaking fires you for following the law instead of breaking it and going straight to work, that's a hell of a wrongful termination case, folks. So make sure you don't use that as an excuse. If you see an accident happen and you were like right behind the car or whatever, stop and render aid. Somebody has to. If nobody does and the person dies, it could be your fault. Maybe they got a dash cam that sees you driving away. You didn't stop and call for help. I have a dash cam on my car. Maybe they will too. Stop and render aid, folks. All right? Hurting someone while driving, you can lose your license. You're not a safe driver, but it's got to be something serious. Injured or dead. Okay? You're not going to lose your license for little fender benders or almost having an accident. But seriously hurting someone will cost you your license. Right? What else? Well, fake ID for you or your car. That means an altered license, somebody else's license, an actual genuine fake ID, using a sticker from another car on yours, using a license plate from another car on yours, swapping the VIN from another car on yours. All of those can cost you your license. Okay? Having more than one valid license or ID card. If you have a Michigan driver's license and a Texas driver's license, that's illegal. You can only have one valid one at a time. You could be using the other one to try to get the cops to look for you over there when you're living over here, or vice versa. Okay? That's why it's illegal, because we're only allowed to have one because we need to maintain our accurate address on our current ID. All right? And if you live in Texas, you ain't going to have no Michigan ID. You need to change it to a Texas ID. All right? Evading arrest, fleeing from the police, you may lose your license. Not for sure, but you might. Okay? Selling, making, distributing fake IDs will lose you your license. One of my favorites up on there, graffiti. Let's see how much stuff you can tag when you have to walk everywhere or get a ride. Okay? I mean, some graffiti is beautiful art, and I don't think that's graffiti. I think that that's street art. But, you know, Psycho 13, 27, John 15, 12, you know, Chucho was here, that's all garbage. That's all people being immature and painting their name on someone else's stuff. All right? Now, if you're doing it because you're bad, that's why you tag, okay, call the cops, let them know, hey, I'm going to go tag my name on the front of the police department. Come stop me if you can. Then you're bad. Chucho was here on the front of the PD, that's a flex. Chucho was here on the back of a building that someone's only going to see when, that's just being dumb. All right, but any of it, messing around, tagging up stuff, you're going to lose your license. It's illegal. Don't do it. Get permission. Hey, you have this big blank wall that's covered up with graffiti. Would you mind if I tagged a mural on there? Bunch of people will be like, you're going to cover up the ugly stuff and put up something beautiful? Sure, go for it. Fraudulent government records. You lie on government records, you lose your ID. Racing a motor vehicle on a public highway or street. Remember that stopping distance thing? Remember how big a difference 10 miles an hour makes? Well, when you're racing, you're going well over 10 miles an hour in a speed limit zone. So that means you could be tripling, quadrupling, or quintupling your stopping distance in that area. You get caught racing one time on a public highway or street, you can lose your license. Because you catch a car one time while you're racing on a public street, and you or that person could lose their life. Okay? It's dangerous, it's ill-advised, it's silly, and it's putting other people at risk because you have an ego that has to be like satisfied by proving your car is faster than theirs. Who cares? Who really cares? You do not gain anything by proving your car is faster than theirs, but you could certainly cost someone everything by trying to prove that your car is faster than someone else's. Don't do it, folks. But let's focus on these two. Okay, because what's the difference between DUI and DWI? You guys may have heard this before. Y'all, excuse me, not you guys, y'all. Because there are ladies and gentlemen here. I'm old, forgive me, I'm trying. Is that y'all may have heard of DUI and DWI. Okay? Most people tend to think that DUI is for drugs and DWI is for alcohol. That's kind of it, but it's not really everything to it, because all other drugs are classified as DUI because they can't really measure how stoned, how tweaked, how coked, how whatever you are. But they can measure exactly how much alcohol is in your system. They can tell you down to the percentage. Okay? Because the police employ a tool called a breathalyzer, also known as an intoxilizer. Regardless of what they call it, though, you blow into a little tube that's detachable. They give you a nice, clean, sterile one so that you don't put your lips where someone else did, and you have to blow for 4 continuous seconds. All right. As a smoker, that is an effort. I, thank goodness, quit smoking a couple months ago, and so hopefully that's going to get better. But yeah, you got to blow for 4 straight seconds, and then the machine can tell you exactly how much alcohol is in your system. All right. It measures on a scale from 0, as in there is 0 blood or 0 alcohol in your blood, to 1. 1 is 100%, as in there is 0 blood in your alcohol. Now, if you managed to get yourself to 1, you would have turned yourself into Pickle Rick, and you'd be super dead, because blood is what carries oxygen throughout our system. Drinking is really bad for you, and drinking too much can kill you, even your very first time. All right, folks? So if you blow a .01, though, that means that 1% of your blood is alcohol. And in the state of Texas, all the way up to 7% is DUI. Anything above, or at 8% or above, is considered DWI, driving while intoxicated. But here's the thing about DUI. DUI, they don't have to give you a ticket for it. They will do what is called a field sobriety test, where they'll check you. They'll have you stand on one foot, maybe say the ABC backwards, or walk a line, or touch your nose, things like that. And they'll check to see if you're okay. If you're okay, if you're not impaired, then they'll just let you go. And be like, all right, we're going to go ahead and give you a warning, don't do it again. Now, if you are at a .06 and you are stumbling as you try to walk the line, and you go to, and they're like, okay, pick up one foot, okay, now lean your head back and touch your nose. And then you just like poke yourself right in the eye, you're messed up, because when our eyes are closed, we can touch our nose, our eyes, our lips, our nose, our eyes, our nostrils, our ears, our cheeks. We can touch any specific spot on our face because we know where our hands are. We have that level of coordination. Well, when you're intoxicated, that coordination goes out the window. Okay? When you're intoxicated, you may poke yourself in the eye. So if you pass the field sobriety test, oftentimes law enforcement officers will let you go with a warning, tell you you need to go home, and call it a day. Okay? But if you are at .08 or higher, you are automatically going to be arrested for DWI, driving while intoxicated. All right? But these are just numbers on the screen, so let's give you all some perspective. All right? Because alcohol affects everyone differently, but what it comes down to is the percentage of water in the body. All right? Now, fat is non-water soluble. Fat contains no water, so fat does not count towards it. So if you are a chunky individual and you weigh 300 pounds, you will not process alcohol as well as a person who is muscular and 300 pounds. Women also have a higher distribution of adipose tissue. They have more fatty cells per pound than men do, even when they're in excellent health. Okay, so men will get drunk slower than women. All right, so ladies, please bear that in mind if you do go drinking on a date. When you're adults, is that the guy's going to be in better shape than you are generally, even if you are around the same size. All right. So let's just assume, though, you're a 200-pound man, so that the numbers we have work, right? Now, when you have one drink, your blood alcohol concentration is .02 if you are a 200-pound male. Okay, that's one drink. Well, what is one drink? How do we define one drink? All right? Well, one drink, if you're talking about beer, is 12 ounces of 5% alcohol by volume. Okay? In Texas, that's Budweiser is 5% alcohol by volume. Bud Light is 4.5% alcohol by volume, or Bud Light Platinum is 6% alcohol by volume. That's in Texas. So in Texas, one Budweiser is one drink, but in Utah, one Budweiser is 1% alcohol. So in Utah, it would take 5 12-ounce beers to equal one drink and get to that .02. Okay, so it does depend on the alcohol content of the beverages that you're drinking. And Texas does have a higher legal threshold than a lot of other states because we have a drinking problem in Texas. We just generally do. Okay? And then Four Locos, the old standby for broke teens that want to get drunk fast, is 12% alcohol by volume. That's 2.5 times as high, but I also would like to point out that Four Locos is a 24-ounce can. And remember, we said 12 ounces. So it's actually 5 drinks. Four Locos is your drunk on the first can. So don't drink Four Locos. It's disgusting and it gets you drunk really fast. But don't drink until you're 21, please. Please try it. All right. What else? Wine, right? So wine, 5 ounces of wine is 1 glass. Now, when you look at those glasses and you see that it swells out and then it comes back up, when it gets to the point where the glass is swelled out and started to come back in, that's where it should have been filled up to. Just that little bit at the bottom, that's 5 ounces. If they fill that sucker all the way to the top, they very well have more than one drink in there. Them Real Housewives of Atlanta I had one glass of wine, but it was a whole bottle because they had the glass big enough to fit the bottle. That's 6 glasses or 8 glasses, not one. Okay? 5 ounces of wine is 1 drink. You drink 10 ounces, you've had 2 drinks. Okay? Fill the glass up all the way, it could be 3 or 4 drinks or even 5. Unless it's a giant glass, and then it can be way more. Okay? And then, in the words of Willy Wonka, candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. Right? And liquor will mess you up very quickly because it just takes 1 1/4 ounces. A little shot glass. Glass about that big around at the top, that big around at the bottom, and about that tall. Okay? That is 1 1/4 ounces. And that's whiskey, that's tequila, that's rum, that's vodka, anything that's an 80 proof alcohol in a shot glass is going to be your 1 drink. Okay, now most people put more liquor in their glass than 1 shot. All right, you ever been to a wedding or a quinceañera? They got that bottle of Buchanan's in the middle of the table, and here comes Theo, and here he goes. He's glug, watch this big old glass like this, that little short one like that, and it's like this tall, and they fill it up, and right here there's 1 finger left of space, and they stop with the alcohol. They now have like 8 shots in there or 6 shots in there, and then an ice cube, a little splash of soda, and it's super full, but it's perfect. It's just the way they wanted it. So you can very easily have 5 drinks in 1 class. Because after 5 drinks, you will now have a blood alcohol concentration of 0.09. 9% blood alcohol concentration and over the legal limit in the state of Texas. Now, in my personal opinion, the state of Texas needs to lower the legal limit to 0. Ireland, as a country, has recognized that they have a drinking problem, and the legal limit for drinking and driving in Ireland is 0. You have a beer, you don't drive. I think that's how we should be in the States, especially now that we've got Uber and Lyft and we can get that ride. All right? But change is going to take time because the biggest problem is that's just the first glass. All right? When we talk about drugs and alcohol, I'll tell you about the night where I had 5 drinks like that within 5 minutes of each other. Yeah, it was lame. But let's say you stopped just after that 1 glass. Well, now it's time to go, but you're at a 0.09 BAC. How do you sober up? Well, we've seen movies and shows, or maybe we've got friends or relatives that have told us stuff. You know, so some of the things that they talk about is eating. You know, go to Whataburger, eat some Whataburger after you drink, and it sobers you up. Or maybe drink some coffee. Yeah, drinking coffee after you drink, that sobers you up, right? What about exercise? Going for a run? Maybe more drugs, right? Like someone's going to do some cocaine, just a little bump to pick themselves back up. Yeah, it's all lies. None of it works because that alcohol is still in your system. The only thing that can sober you up is time. The only thing that can remove that alcohol from your system is time. Okay? You have to allow your body to process that alcohol out. All right? A healthy person can subtract 0.15 off your BAC every 60 to 90 minutes. So 1.5% every 60 to 90 minutes goes away. But the process is going to take about an hour and a half to get started, so don't expect any results right away. Right? Now, if you wanted to wait about 6 hours, you could, and then you'd be good to drive. Because in 6 hours, thank you, phone. Class is almost over. In 6 hours, you'd be sober enough, at the very least, to make it home. You'd be DUI instead of DWI. And as long as you can pass that field sobriety, you're good to drive. Right? How many people do you know have a couple of drinks? You know, maybe you have a barbecue at your house on Saturday. Everybody gets together at grandma's, tia's, whatever. Whoever's got the biggest yard, they barbecue, drink some beers, have a couple tacos. Once the meat is gone, once the beer is gone, once the sports are over, everyone leaves. Well, that's like Valley tradition, right? Because Hidalgo County is #1 in the state for DWI. Okay? Because just because you feel fine doesn't matter. BAC does not lie. Because sometimes you can have 1 beer and you feel a buzz. Other times you can have a 6-pack and you're just like, and you feel good. Right? None of that matters to BAC. Right? Now, I do want to point one thing out before we finish up with this question and for the day. Hidalgo County is #1 in the state of Texas for DWI. The city of Austin, Texas has 2.5 miles of bars on a single street. 6th Street out there. Big party street. They also have 4 times the population of the entire valley. and we still have more instances of DWI. Folks, each and every one of y'all is the solution. Y'all decide I am no longer going to accept it to be okay to have a few beers and then drive home. Any kind of drinking while driving could lead to a crash. I don't want to have that on my conscience, all right? Because we have a problem as Hispanics. We have normalized drinking way too much, and it causes problems. Because what happens when you feel fine and forget to turn on your signal in front of the wrong cop on the wrong night? Woo! Pull over! And now the officer walks up to your window and says, "Sir, madam, have you been drinking tonight?" And you're like, "No," and you got fumes coming out your mouth. And then what happens? Well, if you're under the age of 21 and have any detectable amount of alcohol in your system, you may be charged with driving under the influence of alcohol by a minor. Okay? And then you're going to lose your license for 180 days if you don't provide a breath or blood specimen to prove your levels. And if you do and you turn out intoxicated, then you're going to lose your license for 180 days to 2 years. Okay? So do not drink and drive. Because an adult, they're going to lose their license if they're drinking and driving too, folks. Don't do it! Okay? If you must drink, drink responsibly, drink at home. If you must drive, drive responsibly. Don't drive while drunk or stoned. All right, folks, but that's the end of class for today. We made it through question 25. We're going to go ahead and continue pick up from here tomorrow and finish this up. At the end of class tomorrow, we will have some time for questions, issues, or concerns. But for today, every day, make the world a better place. But first, do no harm. Every day, make that choice, make that decision, make that change in your life to take you one step closer to that person that you want to be, that future that you want to have, or that kind of friend that you just can't wait to be. All right, because that power to choose, the power to change, the power to control everything in your life that is on you is all yours. You decide what you wear. You decide how you drive. You decide how you behave. Somebody insults you terribly. They say terrible things about your mother. You're the one that decides to punch them in the face. Or you can decide to be the one that goes, "Why am I going to listen to this idiot? They're just trying to get me mad and in trouble. Deuces," and walk away. Because you are in control. Don't let other people push you. All right, folks, but that's class for today. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Today was day 3 of Teen Driver Education, the Hernandez Driveway. Tomorrow we're going to be getting together for day 4, part 2 of the Texas Handbook review, folks. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing the day 5 assignment, the Texas DPS exam review, where we will be working on all those questions that could be coming up on that test that you receive and answering them together at class or as class. Class participation is going to matter, folks, so please do be ready to just throw in your answers. Remember, 3 right answers or 3 wrong moves us on. 2 minutes with no answers, it would be better to get 3 wrong answers in quick. All right? If 2 people have already given the same answer, jump on the bandwagon, make it a 3rd. Why? Because it's better to move on and answer all the questions than to get bogged down because that 3rd person's not too sure. All right, so please be ready to participate on Friday and be ready to listen up tomorrow as we finish this stuff up. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Drive safe, be safe. And folks, now is the time to start because we need to work on observation. When you start driving, you need to be looking before you hit every single intersection. So as you're riding along as a passenger, please do so. And just start working on that already because that's something we need to do as a driver to stay safe. We will be posting up an assignment here very shortly, just as soon as class is over. I will be getting tomorrow's video link up for everything. Everyone, thank you so much. Y'all have a fantastic evening. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel for your live at 5 afternoon driving lesson with Steve. Bye, everybody. Hope you have a great one. I'll see you then. Deuces.